Chapter 12 Services and Settlements by Safa Jamal, Hajar Khan, and Aram Rauf. A service is any activity that fulfills a human's want or need and returns money to those who provide for it. There are three types of services: consumer services, business services, and public services. Consumer services provide service to individual customers who desire them and can afford to pay them. Business services facilitate activities for other businesses. Public services provide security and protection for citizens and other businesses.
The central place theory by Kostaller explains where and why a service is located. Central place theory helps to explain how the most profitable location can be identified. The hexagon was specifically chosen for the central place theory for two main reasons. One, all points are equidistant from the center, and two, if multiple hexagons are placed surrounding one another, they do not leave any gaps or overlap. The point in the middle of the hexagon is the central place. The area around it is the city. Surrounding the city then is towns, villages, and then hamlets. Depending on their gravity and size, services will locate accordingly. There are two things that a service considers: range and threshold. The range is the maximum distance people are willing to travel to use a service. The threshold is the minimum number of people needed to support the service. For example, a diamond shop will locate in the city because the city has a high range and threshold, and a small grocery store will locate in a town or a hamlet. Not all countries are located based on these factors. It's important to remember that some cities, as such, are located with remembrance of culture.
Usually, cities follow the ring size rule. According to the ring size rule, the second largest city is one half the size of the largest, and so on. In the United States, the distribution of settlements closely follow the ring size rule. Some follow the primate city rule, where the largest city is twice as many people as the second largest city, and an example for this would be Mexico City in Mexico.
The gravity model predicts that the optimal location of a service is directly related to the number of people in the area and inversely related to the distance people must travel to access it. According to the gravity model, consumer behavior reflects two patterns. 1. The greater number of people in the particular area, the greater number of potential customers it has. 2. The farther they are from a service, the less likely they are to use it. It is important to remember that not all services locate based on the following factors. Some locate based on cultural preferences and such. Small countries, usually islands and microstates, offer offshore financial services. Companies locate in offshore financial centers because 1. Taxes on income are low or non-existent. 2. Bank secrecy laws can help individuals and businesses evade disclosure in their home countries.
The economic activities in a settlement can be divided into two types: a basic business, which exports primarily to customers outside the settlement, and a non-basic business serves primarily customers living in the same settlement. The unique cluster of basic businesses in a settlement is its economic base. A clustered rural settlement is an agricultural-based community in which a number of families live in close proximity to each other with fields surrounding the collection of houses and farm buildings. A dispersed rural settlement is characterized by farmers living on individual farms, isolated from neighbors rather than alongside other farmers in the settlement.
There are two types of clustered settlements: circular clustered rural settlements and linear clustered rural settlements. A circular rural settlement consists of a central open area surrounded by a bunch of structures. A linear rural settlement comprises of buildings clustered along a road or a river to facilitate communication. The fields extend behind the buildings in long, narrow strips.
In Europe, back in the olden days, farms used to be isolated and small, but as commercial agriculture began to be practiced, the UK adopted the enclosure movement. The enclosure movement is the process by which numerous small farms were consolidated into a smaller number of larger farms in England during the 18th century.
The earliest settlements most likely originated in Mesopotamia and the Fertile Crescent. Early consumer services include burial for death and places for ceremonies. Women mostly stayed home and did chores while men hunted and gathered materials for objects and food. There weren't many business services, but some that existed were places to trade and places that kept records.
The process by which the population of urban settlements grows is known as urbanization. Urbanization has two dimensions. One, an increase in the percentage of people living in urban settlements, and two, an increase in the number of people living in urban settlements. Urban and rural settlements differ in three aspects. 1, size, 2, density, and 3, social heterogeneity. If you live in a rural settlement, you probably know most of your neighbors, but in a city, due to its large size, you probably know little to none of them. Cities also have high density, so specialization is needed to support its large number. As you may expect, this is not required in rural areas. Just as urban areas have a large number of people, they also have a greater variety of people. Rural settlements generally have ethnically similar people living in the same neighborhood. This acts as a pull factor for people of the same ethnicity to migrate there, causing ethnobirds and ethnic islands to form.
Interurbanization is the demographic and social process whereby people move from urban areas to rural areas. The population of residents in urban areas have been increasing. The percentage of USA has been decreasing due to counter-urbanization.
Global cities are classified in the global hierarchy as being alpha size, beta size, or gamma size.